when I was a kid, I learned one lesson, and that was that you divided a paper in two, and over here you said, Anthony Quinn, how am I like the Pope? No, I must say that the one thing I've never been lacking in is enthusiasm. If anything, I'm accused of having too much enthusiasm. Well, I don't know what to do with myself when I'm not making pictures. It's become a way of life in my case.
Our guest on Portrait today is one of the most sought-after international stars. He earns around $500,000 a picture, plus a percentage of the profits. Many critics consider him the finest actor in films today, although some actors and directors who've worked with him describe him as obstinate, strong-minded, selfish, brutal, impossible. Others, like Marlon Brando, Federico Fellini, Sir Laurence Olivier, say he's the greatest. Our guest now lives outside of Rome in a magnificent villa where Joe Hyams framed this portrait of Anthony Quinn.
Good morning. This is Joe Hyams. We're about 20 miles outside of Rome in the very beautiful Castelli Romani area. These are the hills where the Pope has his summer palace, and just a little bit off in the distance one can see the Mediterranean. This is also where some of the best wine in Italy is grown. By one of those lovely coincidences, this vineyard is named Vigna Sant'Antonio, and today the occupant is Anthony Quinn.
Joe?
This is really lovely.
You know, as a matter of fact, this house is a rather famous house because most of the actors, when the motion picture field opened up here in Italy after the war, and there was an immigration of Kirk Douglas, Gregory Peck, Mel Ferrer, Audrey Hepburn, Clark Gable, etc. They came to live in this house. This was a house that was reserved for visiting actors, so to speak. So practically everybody in the motion pictures world who has come to Italy to make pictures has lived here in this house.
Oh, when did you buy it?
Well, actually, I bought it 3 years ago. I had no intention of buying it. I just came as one of the, as one of the many actors. The
came to rent.
Yes, I came to rent. And one day, the lady, the owner of the house, said that she was moving out under rather tragic conditions and asked me if I would like to buy the house. And I must say I loved it for the children. And we have about 10 acres of ground, all in vineyards, and some of the most famous wine is in this district.
You bottle your own wine?
Yes, we have our own wine.
With your own label?
No, people don't bother labeling it here, actually. Actually, this whole area is called the Frascati wine.
Mm-hmm. And these are where all the Frascati wines come from.
Yes, most of them. The interesting thing about wine that I never knew was that just one line of a fence, the next vineyard will produce completely different kind of wine.
Do you like living here in Rome now? You adjusted?
Well, I love this. I love this is a place that I'd searched for all my life, actually, country living, and actually we're only about 35 minutes from the international airport, so to speak, and being in Rome, which has now, I think, become almost the center of motion picture making in Europe. So, yes, I like it here very much.
But you've made, the children are how old now? I see this two.
Francesco's 4.5, Danny is 3.5, and Lorenzo's 1.5.
Inside, too, I noticed you have a wonderful collection of art.
Well, actually, that isn't the collection that it's a collection that I acquired in the last 3 years. I had a rather large collection, but I started collecting when I was a kid. And I had a large collection in America. Pótelo qua.
Quando lavori?
Adesso stiamo lavorando, honey.
Tu,
Yes.
quando lavori?
Adesso, he can't understand. He thinks that work is, digging ditches. Do you know Mrs. Quinn, Joe?
Hello, how are you? Good to see you.
See, honey.
Allora, they can't believe it.
No.
Would you like to sit? We were talking about the picture.
The paintings inside,
Mhm.
the paintings inside are just acquisitions that I've made in the last 3 years. Actually, I'm a compulsive buyer, Joe, because I go to a place like Greece or I go to a place like Spain or Mexico, and I can't help collecting. So inside, there's a collection of just the stuff that I've collected in the last 3 years when I was making Zorba or guns of St. Sebastian in Mexico. You must confess. Confess! That's my confession.
When we played together in Guns for San Sebastian, I noticed that there wasn't a scene, a setup, which didn't take his full attention and full absorption. Everything had to be how he felt, you see, that is perfect. And that to me was really a revelation with the man who was a big star. You think he'd fluff something off, but nothing like that. And the result is, of course, an integration of all these scenes. Perfection is the result.
You also collected some land, it seemed to me, in Rhodes.
Papa.
Yes, darling.
Because I remember reading that you were going to build a sort of a retreat for philosophy or something.
Well, it's not a retreat. That's a terrible word. Actually, any word that you use in relation to that experiment that I'm doing in Rhodes is kind of strange because it's not a retreat and it's not a philosophical center. People have called it a cultural center. The word art, for instance, is a kind of artsy, craftsy kind of word. And I'm just trying to build a place where people can go and discuss openly creative problems. I think creative problems are usually hampered by either philosophical thinking or nationalistic thinking. And I want a place where one can be free of certain prejudices. So that's all that I'm trying to do.
Looks like we're playing musical chairs with children.
Yes, I'm sorry, we keep changing back and forth here.
As fast as one goes, the other
Yes.
comes. It seems to me with the children that you really are very fortunate. You've got children grown up, and now you've got the youngsters. That's going to keep you young forever.
Yes. Well, I hope you're prophetic. You better. Well,
Yeah, it's a kind of lovely. It's a new life in a sense.
well, yes.
But as a child, though, as I recall, a life in early hard times, at least, you certainly had more than your share.
Yes.
I don't
More than
know.
I bargained for.
I don't know if the stories are true, though, about I think it was your grandmother who carried you over on her back from
That was my mother.
Your
My
mother,
mother, yes.
from Chihuahua to El Paso.
Yes. Yes, well, that was in the middle of the revolution, 1915 in Mexico, and my father, we didn't know whether he was dead or where he had disappeared to. My mother went looking for him and walked from Chihuahua to Juarez, which is about 500 or 600 miles away.
With you on her back?
Well, I guess she let me down occasionally.
Do you remember it, or is that something she told you that happened?
Well, no. I remember quite a bit about it. My mother finally was able to hop a ride on a freight train that was going to Juarez. And the engineer very kindly said, well, I can't take passengers, but he saw this young girl with this big kid in her arms, and he said, if you'll hide in the coal wagon, then maybe nobody will see you. So they put us in this coal wagon and covered us with coal, and that's why I suffer from claustrophobia. I couldn't stand it, apparently. So he had to let us down at the next stop.
You know, I was, in reading your biography, I was amazed at the number of jobs that you had, the number of things you had done, and that whole history is really extraordinary, starting with a coal car, that is.
Well, I'm sure that I'm not too different from most of my generation, and I think if you remember back, of course you're younger than I am, Joe, but most of the kids that grew up as I did in the height of the Depression, after all the Depression came in 1929, by that time I was about 9 years old, I think, and then having lost my father at the age of 10, and having to help to support the family, I did everything from digging ditches, electricity work, carpenter work, butcher. I drove a taxi at the age of 18. I was a foreman of a factory at the age of 14. I was a foreman of a ranch up near Camarillo when I was 17. And it was just a matter of earning a living, that's all.
Except that...
I boxed.
You boxed, too.
Yes.
Did you box professionally?
Well, in those days they had what they called smokers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was an ugly practice, actually, when you look back upon it, that businessmen used to get together, and instead of having, although sometimes it did have the naked girl come out of the cake, they usually had some poor kids up there beating each other's brains out for $5 a night.
This was with gloves or without?
Oh, yeah. With gloves.
With
yes.
gloves.
Yes. No, as a matter of fact, there were some very charming, wonderful memories about that period, because usually we used to arrive at understanding the boys. They were usually from the same neighborhood, the guy that you was going to fight. I remember once fighting a boy. His name was Dan Penna, and we had gone to fight at the Smoker, and he'd clinch and he'd say, not in the mouth, I just had my teeth fixed. so we were, actually the fights were pretty much set. I was very lucky because a great manager by the name of Pop Foster, who was managing the great champion, I think the greatest champion of all time, Jim McLarnin, came to me, and he thought I had a very good left hand. Of course, that was not unusual. I was 6'1", weighed 147 pounds, so a welterweight at 6'1". I had quite
tremendous reach.
I had a tremendous reach on everybody, and so the fact that I had the reach, I had a very good left hand. And finally, under him, I fought 16 fights. But on the 16th fight, I had this kid in the corner, and I couldn't hit him with my right. He was a Negro boy. And I heard all these men yelling these obscenities at the poor kid, and I felt, gee, here I am.
I mean, kill him, and all that
well,
stuff.
you know, all the usual things that they yell about minorities. And I felt terrible. Here I was going to add my last coup to this poor kid, and I couldn't throw the right hand. So in the fourth round, I was very lucky because he knocked me out. And so consequently, Pop came backstage. I call it backstage, and I came into the dressing room, and he said, all right, kid, you've had it. He said, if I ever see you in the ring again, he says, I'll personally get up and kill you. He said, you're not a killer, and you don't belong in the ring. You can't throw a right hand. And it was probably the luckiest thing that ever happened to me, getting out of the fight game, so to speak.
Did you study acting in high school at all?
No, as a matter of fact, I was refused, all those kids that were the big stars in high school productions, God knows what happened to them. No, I think it was a very good thing that I was, and again, I'm very lucky that I was refused entrance into the drama department of the school.
Which one was it? Polytechnic High? Or what?
Polytechnic and Belmont High, yes.
Why'd they refuse you?
Well, I didn't find out till much later, and I think they were absolutely right in refusing me, was that I had a speech impediment, for which I had an operation when I was 19 years old.
You mean you lisped?
I was tongue-tied.
Tongue-tied?
Yes, I was tongue-tied, and I had to have an operation. I had no idea of becoming an actor, actually. I liked fooling around with acting, but I had no idea. I wanted to be an architect, actually. And I went to apply for a job once. As a matter of fact, he became a very dear friend of mine many years later, Frank Lloyd Wright.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to an office to ask if I could. I had won a contest. I had won an architectural contest. I had designed a marketplace. And I did a drawing which was accepted. And from that, apparently, the people from Frank Lloyd Wright office had heard of me and asked me to come down for an interview. And I went with all my drawings. And the man said, "What's the matter with your speech?" As far as I was concerned, nothing was the matter with my speech, except that I spoke kind of East Side Los Angeles kind of English. And he said, you seem to have something the matter with your speech. And anyway, he said, to be an architect, you also have to have kind of bedside manners, because you'll be meeting so many people.
Yeah.
And
sell your ideas.
Yes, you have to sell your ideas. And it's a matter of personality again. So he said, "Why don't you go and see a doctor and see what's the matter with your speech?" So I went to a doctor, and he said that I had to have an operation. And I had the operation. And in learning to speak, I went to a dramatic school called Catherine Hamill on Cahuenga and Hollywood Boulevard.
Still exists, I think.
Does it?
Hamill, I think.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think the poor lady died many years ago. But anyway, she gave me a job as a janitor, and I paid for my speech lessons in that way. And then one day they needed an actor for a Noel Coward play called Hay Fever.
Mm-hmm.
And so she asked me if I would do the part, and I said yes. And so here I am, being an actor.
Well, from Hay Fever in what year was that?
1935.
1935 or 36 to
Yes.
now was a way off.
Yes, unfortunately, I live with those mistakes. I see myself on television constantly, and I'm reminded of 1935, 1936 period.
When I first met Anthony Quinn, I guess that was 36, 37, and 38. I came out here from New York in 1934 and was with Paramount for about 4 or 5 years. And Tony was under contract to Paramount at that time. We must have done about 5 or 6 pictures together. Tony was always very, very intense and enthusiastic, sort of boyishly so, and as a result, he'd come in for a good deal of kidding. You could tell that he was talented. It was, however, the talents weren't under complete control as they are now.
Well, in 1935 was Hay Fever, and then it seems to me your first picture was around 1936, wasn't it?
1936,
Parole,
I did a picture called Parole for Sale, yes, for a lovely man named Friedlander at Universal Studios. That was also a mistake, because he had come to see me in a play. I was doing a play at the time. I was playing kind of the John Barrymore character in a play called Clean Beds, which Mae West had produced at the Hollytown Players.
Did John Barrymore come to see you?
Yes, as a matter of fact, he did. And one of the great associations of my life started. We became very dear friends, and he's one of the warmest memories I have of my early Hollywood days.
Someone else who could be with you spiritually, I suppose, is Amy Semple McPherson, who you worked for, too, for a while.
Well, I didn't work for her. I worked with her. She was an amazing woman. I know that one tends to talk about Amy in a rather offhanded way, but she was one of the most marvelous people during the Depression, when the Mexican colony was having trouble getting food the average people, if they called the government at that time, you would have to go through such red tape that you'd starve to death before they send you food. But Amy Semple McPherson, you would merely call her up and say, we're hungry, and within an hour you'd have food and clothes, whatever you needed. So I was very, very fond of her, and I thought she did a tremendous amount of good, and I know that I learned a great deal from her.
Did you also preach from the pulpit too?
Yes, I preached to the what we call the young group of the young Pentecostalists, and I also played my saxophone on street corners and in the band.
How'd you learn to play the sax?
Well, Joe, as you know, during those early years, you try to grasp at anything. I mean, I thought very seriously of becoming a gangster at the time. Anything to get to survive, to eat, to clothe myself and the family. And saxophone was just a way of perhaps the dream of youth, having a little band of your own. As a matter of fact, I did get a band finally. We used to go and play at parties, at private parties for $1 a night, I think it was, that we all earned. But finally, I wound up with Miss McPherson, and we weren't paid, as you know, but I was paid in many other ways.
Well, it seems to me, you know, that the hardships of childhood, such as they were, and the poverty, in a sense, but all these things kind of come together like a blacksmith hammering at steel.
Well, you know, I often laugh at people saying, gee, I'd do it all over again, you know, I love... But I must say that that in retrospect, I realized that I was a very lucky guy. I loved the experiences I had. I know that at the time they were terribly painful, and I thought I'd never get out of it. It's like when you're in the middle of a storm, you're in the middle of a hurricane out in the middle of the sea, you think, well, I'll never survive this. But then in retrospect, you realize what a wonderful thing it was to have survived it. And I must say, looking back upon it rather nostalgically now, and thinking I was very lucky to have gone through those experiences.
Both lucky as a human being as well as an actor, I would think.
Well, I never get to play. Yes, as a matter of fact, now that I'm playing this part of the Pope, I think I draw a great deal upon my past experiences, religious experiences. Yes.
Well, for playing the part of the Pope in the shoes of the fisherman, you become Pope, I think, at the end of the picture.
Yes.
In the beginning, however, you're a man who's been tortured, tormented for
Well, I
some
certainly
time.
have enough to draw from on that.
I bet you do, it would seem.
But the part of the Pope, actually the interesting part, not to say that it all isn't interesting, but the interesting part of the Pope is the conflict that he doesn't want the responsibility of being the Pope, and he fights in the conflict in him that he is terrified of the power of the church and of his own power as a Pope. And I must say that I can understand that terror that he has. I know that I would think a great deal before I accepted such responsibility. I guess most men would. But then once you do accept the responsibility to see it through.
How do you amuse yourself on the set? Do you ever paint or sketch?
Well, that was when I was doing Streetcar Named Desire in Chicago, and I had a lot of time on my hands, and I took a little painting studio, and I did about, 50 paintings, and I exhibited 36, and I sold them all. And I really was very unhappy about it because I felt they all bought them because I was an actor, not a painter. So I gave it up. I still paint occasionally, but I get so busy now acting that I haven't painted for a long time.
Another talent he had that I'm surprised I never hear mentioned was as a cartoonist. I remember one time he did a cartoon of me, and somebody got it away from him and showed it to me, and poor Tony went through tortures because, I guess he didn't know it. It was a magnificent cartoon. It just took every flaw of my face and lumped them into one.
Well, as a child, the conflict was, I suspect, one of first not being hungry and second trying to help your family. But I imagine there must have been inner conflicts that were great, that were deeper than that, though.
I recently had a rather interesting experience. I know that once when I was a very young boy, I went to a writing class, again out of desperation as to what I would do with my life, and I think I was 17 years old. when I went to this writing class, and they had me write what my perfect day would be. And I find out that, interestingly enough, the things that I wanted at 17 years old are the same things I want now.
Well, when you got to the Plainsman, that was playing the Cheyenne Indian. How did you get that role?
I was down in Ensenada working, yes, and I was wrapping fish up. I was wrapping fish in some newspapers when I saw this ad that Cecil B. DeMille was looking for Indians to play in the Plainsman. And my foster brother and I hopped a freight that night and got back to Hollywood. I stopped off in a gas station and I shaved with borax soap from a gas station. And I went directly to the studio. And the casting director looked at me and he said, "You're fine for the part, the special part they were looking for." And he said, "But you mustn't tell DeMille that you can speak English because I'm supposed to produce a real, a Cheyenne Indian by this afternoon. I can't find him, and you're just fine for the part." So I walked in and I spoke gibberish to Mr. DeMille, and I got the part. And it wasn't until a few days later that Mr. DeMille found out that I could speak English. I think he always kind of suspected I was going to show up with my tribe and park on his lawn with my teepees.
Was he upset when he found you could speak English?
No, as a matter of fact, he was very sweet, very kind. He gave me a test for a personal contract, which didn't work out.
Well, that started your career, really, with playing a Cheyenne Indian, and it seems to me you played darn near everything else.
Yes, I think I played about 3 or 4 Indians after that. I played with Joe McCrae, Yellow Hand. I did a picture with Errol Flynn, in which I played an Indian. Then many years later with, I think it was Fred McMurray. I think I played about 4 Indians, yes. Then I went on to play. I used practically the same speech and all. I played an Eskimo. I used the same speech that I used in the Plainsman.
And then I remember Hawaiian. You played a Hawaiian, or not?
With Bing Crosby.
That's
yes.
right.
Yes.
And
Waikiki Wedding, I think it was called.
right.
I tell you, they're very painful when you see them on television now. You look at yourself and all you can see is that kid, kind of not really playing the part, but saying, "Please, please love me, please accept me."
Jeffy, boy, I love you like a brother. Come on, join the party and have a drink. Rosadito, vente. Marco, it's late. You haven't got much time. What are you going to do about the bandito?
Wouldn't you like to know? I'm not going to tell you. First, I want to tell you something else. Listen, everybody. This man, he works for me. But he's the boss. You know why he's the boss? I'll tell you.
Marco, let's get out of here.
He's the boss because my wife is in love with him. She thought I didn't know. I always knew there was some other guy. But I didn't know who till you come back. She's in love with you. But I married her and I got her. It's a joke. It's a joke. I want everybody to laugh. Laugh! I'm going to tell you about the bandit. I know what you thought. You thought I was going to pay him. I'm not. I'm going to fight him.
You sure that's not whiskey talking?
No. It's me. Me, Frank Paco Conway talking. I'm going to fight him.
Did they... I guess if you want that, sooner or later it comes, or maybe it doesn't come.
Well, no, it's strange enough. It comes when you give up wanting that. When you give up wanting to be accepted, when you stop pleading to be accepted and saying, please make me a movie star, please. And one day, suddenly you mature. I remember in 1947, I think it was, the biggest year I'd ever had in Hollywood. I'd just done a picture with Douglas Fairbanks Jr. and one with my wife, as a matter of fact, Catherine DeMille, a picture called Black Gold. And I felt, well, I've had it here. I don't think I'll ever go beyond playing Indians and kind of, the heavies in pictures. And although it had been the biggest year I'd ever had financially in Hollywood, I left it cold and I went to New York. I did a play called Gentleman from Athens with Sam Wanamaker directing. And then I went into a long tour with Streetcar Named Desire with Uta Hagen.
2 years, I think.
Yes, and I just left Hollywood. I just felt that I had to learn my trade, my business, and then I began, strange enough, maturing, that I accepted as a job. It's a job that I have to try to do as best I can, and it's a profession. I think at first it was kind of amateurish, kind of, hoping that the emotion would be there and just sheer energy would, see me through. And then I went and really began to learn my job all over again.
Oh, I'll kill you. I love you, Bennett. I made you my son. I'll kill you. What do you think you can walk up to me like that, huh? Say you're going away? I made you my son. I want to give you everything. My whole place, my own flesh and blood. You can't talk to me like that, Bennett. Benny, I love you, Benny. Benny, come on. No, Benny, come on. What can I buy you? You want a car? I'll buy you a new car. Benny, I'll build you a house. Benny, what can I buy you, Benny? Hey, Joya! Happy birthday, happy birthday.
Don't drink too much.
No, you're right. I'm not going to drink no more. No. Hey, Alberto! Hey, you got it, Oh, go. Hey, everybody! Hey, everybody, come on! Everybody, come here! Wait a minute! I want to give my wife a present. Hey, I tell you what it is, Scott. 1, 2, 3. Did I tame the horse? Yeah, I broke the horse. My wife wanted a horse. I broke the horse. What's the matter? I broke the horse for you.
It was a horse before. It's a ship now.
Did you find that the 2-year run in a play, coming from films, and you had no real background, that should have been extremely difficult?
It was very painful at first, but I thought that during those 2 years I matured tremendously. As a matter of fact, right after that, I went and did a picture. The first picture I did was Viva Zapata.
Mm-hmm. And that got you an Academy Award.
Yes, I was very lucky, and I got the Academy Award for that. So that I felt that I had matured. I mean, not that the Academy Award meant maturity necessarily, but I felt that I had learned a great deal.
Well, you went back to Broadway again, and
yes.
that before or after your second?
Well, periodically, I feel that I'm missing something. And I had the opportunity to work with one of the greatest actors of all time, Laurence Olivier, and I decided to go back and learn from him. And we did Beckett.
Now, in the first picture that I saw him, the La Strada, I thought it was one of the great, great performances. And I wasn't at all deceived when I saw him in the play with Olivier, Beckett. He played Henry II, another great performance. Then, I understand, they switched roles. Olivier played Henry II, and Anthony Quinn played Beckett, which is quite a feat, I'd say. And it was a great, great performance. That is the one that I saw Anthony Quinn in Henry II. I'm sure he was equally great as Beckett.
Well, when you're choosing a film to do you look for things beyond the part then?
Well, nowadays, you know, one of the few luxuries that I can enjoy is the fact that I have a choice. And I think that's the greatest luxury, by the way, in the world, is having freedom of choice. And the fact that I choose parts that I think have something to say. Sometimes I choose pictures that might not be the big money makers that they should be, but I think that thematically I'm still correct. A case in point is a picture I did recently, which everybody thought was not the greatest picture ever made, but I thought the theme of a picture called The 25th Hour was a tremendous theme, and I did it, and I passed up one of the greatest money makers of all time. I shouldn't mention the picture because another actor did it, and he had great success with it. And I know that my agent sometimes thinks maybe I made a mistake. I don't think I did.
How does an actor work at his craft? What can you do?
Well, Joe, I mean, there's quite a few jokes going around about the so-called method acting, but I must say that I was very lucky. When I was a kid, I studied with people like Akim Tamiroff, Michael Chekhov. I studied with Harold Klerman, Strasberg, Kazan. Although he was a director, he was also a great teacher. So I've had some very good schooling, and there are many, many methods of working. You do many exercises. I remember for instance, I was telling you about body. I mean, first of all, you have to be in very good physical health constantly. And as you know, I usually walk around these hills every morning before I go to work. I do road work. And so your body has to be flexible. Of course, vocally, you have to do vocal exercises. I do a lot of humming and singing, and I do a lot of reciting with a cork in my mouth to get enunciation. I invariably take voice lessons whenever I'm around where I can find a good voice teacher in New York or Los Angeles. And even here I've had some voice lessons.
Did your second Academy Award come after the second time you've been back to Broadway?
No,
Lust for Life?
No, Lust for Life was, I think, I forget now. 1960, was it? Yes. I forget.
What problems do you have with that kind of a role?
And sometimes you don't. Now, for instance, when I played Gauguin, I realized that he had a different nose than I did, and he was smaller, by the way. So I had to play smaller when I played Gauguin. And then you say these are the how much am I like the character, and then over here you say how much am I unlike the character, and then you try to achieve the qualities in which you are unlike the character.
Deficient.
Gauguin is a kind of a god, because at that time Gauguin was in the Impressionist movement and had sold many paintings. And Van Gogh was strictly an amateur, and I was not satisfied with the story of Gauguin, the part which Anthony Quinn played, and Van Gogh, their relationship in Arles, which is a very stormy relationship, you know. So when Tony joined us at Arles, he had costume tests and makeup tests and the nose for Gauguin and so forth. He said to me, you know, when I arrived in Arles, he said, all I hear about is how great the Van Gogh part is, how wonderful Kirk Douglas is, what great things he's doing. And he says, I haven't even started the picture. He says, it makes me feel like an outsider, a little jealous. He said, it seems to me that that's the way the Gauguin felt when he arrived in Arles. So I gave a whoop because I knew that he agreed with me completely. And John Houseman, the producer of the picture, was rewriting as we went along, and we rewrote completely that relationship so that it is as it is in the picture now. And if it hadn't been for Tony throwing his weight in, I don't think he gave a fantastic performance. He's a wonderful painter himself, you know. And he became Gauguin. And he won an award, and he was entitled to it. It was a magnificent performance.
Well, now, when you're working on a role, say, now in Shoes of the Fisherman, you've got a Russian accent, presumably. Did you have to work? Did you study to get
Yes, I'm studying with a man named Fyodor Shalyapin, who happens to have been a friend of mine for 30 years, I guess. and he's teaching me the Russian accent. So I usually work with him maybe 2 or 3 hours a day on that.
Now, wearing the clothes, wearing the vestments and the garments, for example.
Yes, I brought home something that looks like a cassock, and I wear it around the house and walking. That's the most difficult thing, by the way, to walk naturally. And usually are hampered by it. You start walking, you start walking, making the costume do the work for you instead of you're wearing it just like normal clothes. Well, I must say that I'm very grateful to George England and to Michael Anderson, who cast me in the part of the Pope in Shoes of the Fisherman, because I certainly wouldn't have cast myself. I must tell you that if I were the casting director, I think Anthony Quinn was the last person that I would have thought of for the Pope. I had the same experience in another picture I just did in Spain, a picture called The Magus, in which I play a kind of Picasso-like character.
I think he's the only person on that film who spoke to me about my part and who discussed it with me and who discussed the inner relationship of his part and mine. And the only days that I ever enjoyed working on that film were the days when Tony was in the scene with me and when we worked together. And that's his great gift, I think, to actors, is that he can really make it come alive. I know that for me, my part never took shape until I worked with him and until he spoke to me about it. It was a very difficult role for me, and the only days that it ever seemed to take any sort of excitement and any sort of character to it was when Tony was there. I also was very respectful of the fact that he uses his energies to the last degree. He paints, he acts, he writes, and when he was in Mallorca, he had projects going that were full-time projects, and he had about 5 of them going at the same time. He was just doing everything, and doing it beautifully and brilliantly with as much charisma as I've ever seen in any one man or any woman. I think he's one of probably the last great personalities.
What was the theme of the Magus? Magus.
The Magus is, the Magus means magician, and it's a man 70 years old who believes that you must live completely committed to life and not have any preconceived notions of what life is, but you must accept life each moment. And I think that one of the great dangers, and going back to our philosophical center that I want, is that we all live from a preconceived notion, predigested notion of what life is like. And we're constantly in great conflict because life just doesn't measure up to that notion that we have of it. Or we're constantly full of prejudices and constantly, as our friend Thoreau said, live lives of quiet desperation because life is just not quite the way we want it. And if we let life talk to us, it's so much bigger than our little concept of it. Well, that's what Magus was saying. He said, let life talk to you and commit yourself to life. Not superimpose yourself upon life, but let life talk to you. And one of the greatest faults that we have is none of us will commit ourselves to love. And I happen to be a great believer. I think that we've all been traitors in the sense that none of us really commit ourselves to love.
Takes a lot of courage sometimes.
I think we've used love as a commodity, and we're always marketing for love. But I think that we're really marketing for is our own self-gratification and not for love itself. The same thing, we look at life, and we want things from life, and really, I think that the whole thing was summarized by Mr. Kennedy when he said, let's not ask what the country can do for us, what can we do for our country. The same thing, not what can love do for us, but what can we do for love. Or not what life can do for us, what we can do for life.
Well, you had said earlier that this head of, I don't know, what's it a head of?
It's actually a Greek. I bought this in Greece on my way down to Crete when I was going to do Zorba. You know, I was telling you that most of the collection that you see here is all very personal because, really, I mean, to call me a collector is ridiculous. I don't collect. Outside of having a very superficial knowledge of it, I actually collect pieces that help me in my work. Now, this, for instance, I suddenly, don't ask me why, because it doesn't look like Zorba at all, but the feeling that I get from this face is Zorba.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this all the time that I was playing the part. And much to my amazement, I found out it was quite a rare piece, and it's thousands of years old. But that's what the whole house is made of, collection of things that have helped me in parts that I was playing.
Well, now, you've spent, in the time you've been living in Europe, I guess most of your time here in Italy. How do you like living in Rome? What's it like to be an actor, an American actor who lives
Well, actually, I've been asked that question many times, Joe. And to me, the moment I'm in front of a camera, it's international. Mm-hmm. And the camera is, I've grown up with it. I've been with it since I was 19 or 20 years old. I feel very personal. It's one of my closest friends. It's just that people think I might be crazy that I don't go up and kiss it in the morning, good morning, and good night when I leave, because it's a very personal thing to me. And the minute I'm in front of a camera, I don't know whether I'm in Greece, Africa, London. It's all Hollywood to me, actually. And Hollywood is not just a place on a map, or it's not a geographical thing. I think it's a state of mind. And since I grew up making pictures, wherever I'm making pictures, I'm home.
Mm-hmm. Sky falls down on your head and you just keep right on hoping.
I don't expect no miracles, Rose, but if nothing happens, Rose, if it turns out that you and me can't get together,
Is Mary still in the room?
Yeah.
And you won't tell her about us?
Rose, I can't. I just can't, girls. Rose, let's go to church and pray together, huh?
And
People who know Anthony Quinn look upon him in many ways, but only rarely are an actor's thundering performances matched by an equally spectacular personality. His life and screen portrayals have spanned the spectrum of human emotion. He has known fear, frustration, and heartache of both. He has fought in the ring, preached from a pulpit. Rare and vivid, this portrait, Anthony Quinn.